Fighting out of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, Damien Brown.
What's up, folks? Welcome to the Wireless Podcast. I'm your host, Damien Brown, UFC and Army veteran. I created the Wireless Podcast to cover all things sport, lifestyle, physical and mental health. It's not about me, it's about the listeners. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Beatdown155 or subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Wireless Podcast, and hopefully we can produce some wicked content for you in the near future.
And welcome to The Wireless. Thanks for joining us today, Justin.
Thanks for having me, Damien.
No worries. So, folks, for those that are just listening to the audio, we have Justin Lawrence today, XFC founder and former promoter, now living the high life as a dad, mate. But how you going?
Yeah, good, mate.
And how's isolation, lockdown, now that you're out of isolation?
Yeah, mate. Kids are back to school on Monday. I've got a 14-year-old turning 15 and twins literally a year younger than him. So I've been promoting some fights at home.
Talking about promoting fights, so you were XFC promoter for a long time.
Yep.
Over a decade, obviously. How did it start? Where did XFC start? Why?
I was doing a bit in the industry prior to XFC, just promoting fights here and there, working with Pancras, Japanese organisation in Australia and some odds, like fights on kickboxing shows and stuff. I was approached by the son of quite a famous boxing promoter from Melbourne that did all of like Lester Ellis's fights. His old man did. Joe Cedar, he approached me and wanted to start an MMA show. So bang, we started a full-time show. It was, all I did. He had a job as well. Joe stayed around for a couple of shows and their family businesses led him, he got back into that more and more and I just kept going from there.
Okay. So you took a bit of a break. How many shows did you do before you took the break?
Which break were you speaking of?
Did you take like 5 years or something like that there at one stage?
I tend to have a bit of
2013 maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like 2012 was when I sort of came back and started doing the shows where you would have like cornered Aiden Hawke, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, on that little show at Capella Bar. 2009, I got this thing like, I all about the conflicts of interest and stuff, and I was managing fighters or promoting and da-da-da. So I was managing from about 2009 for a while and, one thing led to another and came back, we'll do some more shows. And that was 2012.
We'll get to that management bit soon because we're going to talk about that as well. And, fight contracts from a promoter's point of view and a manager's point of view at the same time. But so XFC as a promotion really produced some good athletes. You know what I mean? Like, well, maybe not produced, but like hosted a lot of athletes that went on and did fantastic things.
Yep.
Rob Whittaker, Hector Lombard, all those guys competed on XFC at some point. How proud does that make you that those guys at some point, even though maybe they weren't solely on XFC,
Yep.
How proud does it make you to know that you were part of their journey?
I'm sort of proud and happy for them. It's not like I'm patting my own back on that sort of stuff. With me, how I sort of, it's always going to go in a circle when you're looking for an answer with me, as you know.
Well, it's about the athlete, right? And that's the way you feel about it as a promoter. It was never about you. It's about the athletes, but you provide the platform.
Yeah, I mean, so I was rewinding back to even before XFC. I watched this Dark Side, these Dark Side pro wrestling things and doco about the Owen Hart death. And pro wrestling was what led me into MMA. I was trading a heap of tapes and stuff like that. Whatever I'm doing, I'm 700%.
Yeah.
So I was big into that. Got tapes. I saw the sort of birth of modern MMA in Japan with the, Akira Maeda shoot kick where pro wrestlers gone Burko kick the shit out of a... We PG-13 or how's this work?
However you want. Just
okay.
go for broke.
So, yeah, I saw the concept of MMA in Japan pre-UFC and I was hooked on it. And got to the stage here in Australia where I'm like, well, no one's doing this here. You know, I've got to do it. Everyone will ask me, were you a fighter because you were promoting or, you know, being big, I guess it makes people perhaps think that I might have been a large person. But no, I just saw it and I'm like, mate, this is fucking awesome. Someone's got to do it here. It'll be me.
Business, right? Business opportunity. It's like any business. You see a little bit of an opening in a field and you're like, maybe I could fit in there.
Like, I don't know if I was looking for a self-opportunity or anything like that. It was like someone's got to do this to, you know, so that we have it here. I may as well do it. And, you know, I felt compelled to do it. And that was sort of what, you know, led me into doing it, was like taking Australian and then Anzac MMA, because I've always seen us as one, us and the Kiwis. You know, we're the same. And very, very proudly with XFC, I think I used more Kiwis than you'd know the number of ones 100%. That I've brought over for you. And always great blokes to have on the show because they're just going to show up. They're going to fight.
It'd be easier not to fight them, to be honest with you. Every time I fought one, I broke something, but yeah.
No headaches with them. You know, they're going to show up, they're going to fight, and they're not going to give me any headaches.
No,
so
100%.
I loved working with them. You know, guys like obviously we had Shane coming over. Prior to that, Neil Swales, who was Shane's perhaps original coach, I'm not sure. But Neil fought for me and I managed Neil as well at one stage. And but yeah, with me it was everything about this is fucking awesome. I want to take it to the world. I want to put Australian MMA on this world map. And it was very hard for me to walk away. You know, I sold the show 2016. Then I've got, what was I don't know whether it was you first or Charlie with Tough, but that all came at me at once.
Yeah, look, so 2016, you sold the show. The last show you did was the last show I was on.
February.
Yep. Because then I fought in the UFC in March. Yeah. So you know, I competed against Pumau Campbell on your show, which was New Zealand Navy and Australian Army. Yep. And the Army never loses to the Navy and Australians never lose to New Zealanders. So it was win-win that night. And
he played Slice of Heaven, so it was all good.
So, you know, really good guy, tough competitor. Even though I was on a 4-fight win streak, he could just put you to sleep with one punch. And he'd done it to the last two guys he'd fought, including one of my teammates, you know, just losing a fight, drops the right hand, people are asleep. So really good last card. And then you sold the show.
Yep. Well, I knew going into the show that we were getting out. It was a memorial show for Ben Quarmby, and it obviously meant a lot to me and a lot of other people. We got to the stage in life where I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I can only do one thing. Something had to give. It was either the show, my wife's business, or the kids. So
yeah, well, 100%. I mean, we all get to that point, right? Yep. That's why athletes retire. So it's so you sold the show, and then you sort of took on you'd already done it, but you sort of took on like a management thing, right? So that's what brings me to the next point. So I'm happy to talk about it because most people don't actually know. I wasn't the first choice for the UFC.
No.
So the UFC, Joe Silver in particular, one of the easiest guys I've ever dealt with in the fight game, straightforward, had very little interactions with him, but when I did, it was like, hey, what about this? No. And this is why. What do I have to do? Go do this. Like just straightforward, down the line.
Yeah, no bullshit.
No mincing words from his end. Yep. And there was no misunderstanding from my end or second guessing. It was like you just knew what was going on. So UFC Brisbane comes around and Abel Trujillo.
Who you fought?
No, the guy that had the visa issues.
I can't even remember.
So I think he was meant to fight Ross Pearson.
It was a big shuffle with a few fights.
Abel Trujillo had some visa problems. We're like 7 days out. Couldn't get into Australia. So Chad, I can't remember his last name. Chad Laprise. He fights Ross Pearson instead, which leaves Alan Patrick without an opponent.
Yep.
So that's where I come in. Joe Silver contacts you.
Yep.
Asked for Nick Patterson.
So I'd been in Vegas for fight week the year before, and I'm trying to beat down Joe's door. Like, look, and had known Joe before UFC.
Yeah.
I'd known him for a very, very, very long time. I think at one stage in Australia, it was really only Elvis and myself that had that contact to the UFC. The further back you go, we're both good mates with Joe. Now it's just a type away. But anyway, I pitched him about Nick. I think it was the night Jesse was fighting on Invicta. I had the Invicta card. I went and saw him there. Nothing happened, and Nick's, I guess, since retired and had a couple of losses. And yeah, he beat.
Well, I think he was on a pretty wicked win streak there at one stage. Now I think he had maybe some medical issues that led to his move up to welterweight, which the UFC, that was obviously between when you'd spoken to him and when the UFC contacted you at the start of March and said, hey, listen, is Nick still available? He'd moved to welterweight by then, but this is a lightweight opportunity.
I think he may have still been, fighting at both. Nick's type 1 diabetic.
Yeah.
So the call for me was, hey, boom, have you got this kid? I'm out and about on a Saturday morning and fuck. So straight away I'm on to Nick, on to Ed Bavelock.
He says no.
He says, mate, I just can't make the weight. And I'm like, mate.
Which is insane because so many athletes will say yes and miss weight.
I told him to.
20%, a little bit of their pride, and they're a UFC athlete.
Mate, walk in the door at 75 kilos, get a slap on the wrist, but you're
in the door.
No. And, it was when that happened, there was, fighters that, well, that was my spot. It should have been me and da-da-da-da-da-da. Nick, when you got the spot, it was good on you, Cobber.
Yeah.
Well done.
He said no. He knew where he was at, and being the professional that he is, missing weight for most people as a professional is not. It's not like, oh, miss weight for an opportunity.
Yep.
You're professional. You're a professional. You say you make weight, you make weight. And he said he couldn't do it. You ring me. The first thing he said to me, hey, listen, I know you want to take the fight, but can you make weight? And I'm like, what kind of question is that? So 13 kilos later in 6 days, and we made our UFC debut. So, as far as managing fighters go, you've certainly managed some fighters, and a lot of managers would make a business out of it.
Right.
For what reason did you choose to help fighters and not manage them, so to speak, from a financial point of view?
So I had managed fighters and, been paid like the 10% for fights, 20% for endorsements sort of things. I had been doing that previously. However, we got to a position in life where, we're okay, and with yourself and, Charlie and Luke and whatnot, it was more a case of with me, like, I know I could help these guys. What sort of cunt would I be if I didn't do it?
Yeah.
And, for me, it's like I didn't need that 10%.
Well, you didn't like go searching to take on a bunch of athletes. You helped the ones that have been on your show.
They're my mates, yeah. I was reciprocating a favour.
We'd build a relationship, so then you're like, well, I can help this person, so you help. Like it'd be like if the UFC rang and said, do you have this guy? And you're like, oh, I'm not managing anymore. Yeah. That's like really shitty thing to do to someone that's like chased this their whole life.
No, as soon as
you got an opportunity, you hand it on kind of thing.
The Nick thing was there. Well, Nick can't do it. Who can do this is what I'm thinking of straight away. Who can I help here and how can I solve Joe and the UFC's problem? And I knew with yourself being here that we'd have a strong case. I forget the pitch that I gave him. Like
5-fight win streak, 4 finishes.
Yep. And it was obviously very important too, like Steve Windley, the UFC doctor's here. I can have him in front of a doctor today and we'll get this done. He knew me as a manager that we've only got a week to tick off all the boxes, and you remember all the crap that you had to go through. Literally
like 2 days in a row just sitting in medical suites getting scans done. But, it really comes back to that opportunity thing. It's the best person in the best place at the right time.
Absolutely.
Like you can be a guy in America on a 30-fight win streak, and if the fight's in Australia and, there's a guy that lives in that town, like you're the guy that's going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's happened on numerous occasions. I was almost re-signed with them last year, start last year, and that was all based on the only thing that was the difference was the 2 towns. Do you know what I mean?
Where was that one for, mate?
That was for 232. I think it was in Melbourne.
Oh, Australian card.
So there was 2 guys.
Not 242, not Whittaker Adesanya?
No, 232.
Okay.
I think. Anyway, without going into details, it was like 2 names offered to their team. Their team chose one. That's literally how close it is.
The
you know what I
opponent,
mean? It's like sometimes, it's not, they don't care whether you're on a 5-fight, 10-fight win streak. It's like they need to put someone in there.
Yeah, and I do believe too that a lot of the time, there's jobs for the boys as well, and these UFC matchmakers have relationships with managers. I've been there firsthand, and I've seen that. There's so much more that we can only speculate as to what we think.
People win 20 fights in a row and they go, I'm next, and it just doesn't work like that. It's all based on the right person, right place, right time kind of thing.
Yep.
So as far as being a promoter, I thought this was a really good point to bring up today, and you're the perfect person to talk to about it because I feel like as far as being a regional athlete with a regional promotion, and because I'm a coach now as well, I sort of have – it's really helped me with my guys who are starting to compete. But as far as doing deals with fighters on the regional circuit, every fighter seems to think they're worth like $5,000.
Yep.
Then at the same time, every fighter seems to think that if I get $5,000, I'll fight whoever I want. Then it really come back to, I tried out for that first Ultimate Fighter in Australia. One of the things that was said to us was, if you don't get in today, don't worry, go away and work on your record and come back.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real turning point in Australian MMA from my mind. And I haven't been around for a long time.
Was that the Smashers one with George and Ross?
Yeah. So, I've only been around for a decade as far as competing goes. And for me, I felt like in Australian MMA, that was a real turning point.
Yep.
Like a lot of fighters after that were like, oh, I need the right record.
Mm.
So all the good fights went. People wanted the fights that were going to get them to where they're trying to go. No one really fights regionally to just fight regionally. And if they do, they only have like 2 or 3 fights for fun and then they're done. If someone's having 10 or 15 fights, they're probably looking at the bigger goal.
Yep.
So everyone wants top dollar and everyone wants the easiest opponent. Right? They don't go together.
No.
Yeah, you can't pick and choose your opponent and then ask for $5,000.
Polar opposites, really.
So, I fought overseas, had a few fights, took a few losses, a couple split decisions or a few losses. But anyway, I came back to Australia. I knew that my career was at a crossroads. I needed to come up with a system that would get me to my goal. I don't knock any opponents back. I never say no to an opponent. But I'll fight for less.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So from a promoter's point of view, what are you looking for when an athlete comes to you or a coach or a manager and says, hey, I got my guy and I want to get him fights?
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you're looking for from a promoter's point of view? And I guess what I'm trying to get at is for any regional athletes who don't have managers, which a lot of them don't.
They all have managers and fucking T-shirt deals and Insta likes.
Well, a lot of them have coaches that don't really do the management for them either. Do you know what I mean? Coaches and that's it. With my guys, I'm using my nutritional experience as far as competing goes to help them. I'm coaching them. I'm checking their weight. I'm talking. I'm managing them. Like I'm doing everything for them. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm finger on the pulse. My guys are going to get the best match fights. And I don't mean unmatched, like mismatched.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the best matched fights that they can get and the money that matches that with an understanding of the regional circuit and the fact that promoters don't make a shit ton of money. So it's got to work both ways. But from a promoter's point of view, what are you looking at to start that negotiation period? Like what's the ideal situation an athlete comes to you with?
Look, from my situation, and I learned a lesson a long time ago with Mick Green, Tony Green's brother, founder of Integrated or blah, blah, blah up the coast.
Yeah.
We got Mick a fight in Pancras in Japan and he fought that Koichi Oishi, I think the guy's name was, might have gone on to be a 1. Anyway, Japanese Olympic wrestler, Mick went over there, got a draw or fucking lost a screwy decision, whatever the case might be, but they're like, you're the next Bas Rutten. And I'm like pounding my chest. Yeah, they want to make him Uchi Desi, give him a big contract. And he was like, my journey in this realm is complete. And I'm like, what the fucking hell? Blah, blah, blah. So Mick took 4 fights for 4 friends that lives had ended prematurely. They'd passed away. He's a pacifist.
Okay.
I don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
But I made the mistake of thinking anything that I do to be better than anyone. That's the way that I'm wired.
Yeah.
As a promoter, I was competitive. And I thought fighters were the same. Now with a fighter, any fighter I talk to, and I would have had the conversation with you. Do you want to make fucking money? Do you want to get to the UFC? Where do you want to go with this? Because I can't help you on a pathway if I don't know where your destination is.
Gotcha.
So with every individual fighter and coach, it's a matter of having these conversations and seeing where they fit into the mechanism, because not everyone's the same, mate. Someone might be ticking off a bucket list. I just want to do it.
Well, that's what I say. Like some regional athletes are like 2 or 3 fights, they're out.
Yep.
Some think they want the big leagues, not quite tested mentally, pushed before they get there. They take a first loss and they ship off. Now, we've seen it time and time again. Like it's, and it's not a dig at any particular athlete.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's just that it's a fucking crazy game. You know what I mean? It's not for everyone. Like combat sports is not for everyone.
Yep.
Getting punched in the face is not for everyone. Having headaches on Wednesday is not for everyone.
No.
It's but ideally if you're getting into it, you want to do it wholeheartedly, tested before you get there, put on the performances, get to the goal. But everyone has a different goal, right? So you're looking first of all to understand what the athlete wants.
Yeah, see where they want to go and what not. And look, the 2 underlying principles I had with fighting were it's got to be safe and it's got to be fair. So I didn't like kids looking to pad their records. I'm most certainly not going to do that. A lot of these kids looking to get there, and I'll say it, it's not who you fight, it's who you don't fight. And we've seen that without mentioning names. We've seen those fighters all around the world. We will time and time again. But I think it has to be, progressive. And we're seeing more and more measures. When I first started promoting, like when I was doing shows on Jimmy Cass's kickboxing cards here, Adrian Pang fought. We're fucking didn't even have unified rules at that stage, but we're knees and elbows and it's hitting Sherdog. But now we have these IMAF and other places that are doing, so they have this opportunity to safely
Develop.
wade into the sport. That wasn't here when you started
into it.
So it's, I think it's important from a promotional point of view for me. Show has to make money.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And, every show in Australia is like we're Australia's best or premier or whatever.
Well, you need a point of difference. That's normal business thing, right?
Yeah.
Point of difference.
For me it was like bums on seats, money in the bank. And the money, what you'd make on a show to me was just a measure as to the success of the show.
Yeah.
And I'd say it now that Floyd Mayweather's, you've got to measure him up higher or McGregor than some guy that's making $80.
Yeah.
It's professional fighting.
The success of their career is based on that.
So for me, I was looking to...
And that's why they call it prize fighting. Right?
Exactly right.
The bigger the prize, the more successful you are.
Was, the show make money in bank, bums on seats, and the opportunities that you're creating for fighters was what I was looking to do.
So from an athlete point of view, my take on it is that I work out my worth.
Yep.
All right. And then I scale my worth based on the experience of the opponent. Now, that doesn't happen internationally, right? I fight a guy internationally with 5 fights on Ryzen. I want X amount of dollars.
Yep.
I don't give a shit whether he's had 5 fights or 300. You see it in the UFC. Guys get paid the same. You fight who they put in front of you, right? If the guy's had if he's 5-0 heavyweight and he's signed with the UFC, he fights whoever they tell him to. If Cain Velasquez is on a 3-fight losing streak, he fights that guy that's 5-0. You don't get to choose that. You know what I mean? But regionally, to navigate a career, I found the best way was to, one, be honest with the promoter.
Yep.
Tell him what you're trying to achieve. I was trying to get to the UFC, you know what I mean? It wasn't about money for me. It was never about money. If it was, I would have lost a shitload on the way. But it was about navigating my way to the UFC. So I felt like if I put to a promoter, I'll fight for, say, an opponent with 1 to 5 fights, this much.
Yeah.
6 to 10, this much. 11 to 15, 15 and above, we need to talk about it.
You want to get paid more for Mike Tyson to hit you in the fucking head than Pee Wee Herman.
It's like I never knock a fight back, but I'm not going to fight, JJ Ambrose for $500.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's fought in Bellator. He's fought anyone with any common sense and any combat sports business sense knows that. But there's an easy way to navigate through your career that creates good relationships with promoters, and that's to make yourself valuable to them.
Yep.
And my opinion is making yourself valuable is selling a shitload of tickets, which obviously is commission-based for most athletes, and making yourself affordable. And for me, I found the best way to do that is not to price yourself based on your own experience, but price yourself based on the experience of your opponent. And that puts the ball in the court of the promoter, right? Because then you go, okay, I know what he wants. I know what I can get him. I'm going to get him this, this, and this. And it's like, it's not negotiating. You know what I mean? It's like, you could get a guy with 6 to 10 fights, I've got to pay him this much money. There's a lot
of variables.
I know it's coming. Do you know what I mean? Like I set the price and I know it's coming. If it comes, I say yes. And I feel like that was the best way for me to navigate through the regional market without getting all tied around I want $5,000 or I want $3,000 or I want $250, which I've fought for.
And I think ego comes into it as too, like, where you've got, fucking I know this guy's getting 3,000 and I'm better than him. Yeah. So you know what I mean? It's a tricky thing. But it's a relationship between a promoter and an athlete or a coach or a gym, whatever the situation. Like anything, if I'm bending over for you and you're doing all the fucking, that relationship's not going to last.
Okay.
So, that's what you need. It has to work for both parties.
Oh, it's give and take, and it doesn't matter whether you're a fighter or a promoter.
Anything.
It's got to work, hey?
It's got to work. It's got to be fair.
Yeah. So, now.
Right.
Promoting, done managing. What's next?
Mate, I think, and it was something I haven't spoken about a lot, and I may as well share it with you. Going into the Whittaker Adesanya was a 242. I'm fucking hopeless, mate. Anyway, Melbourne card.
Yeah, I think so.
So I knew
243?
Yeah, whatever it was, 243 maybe.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be the last. I wanted to walk away. But I wanted to walk away prior to getting you in the UFC. When I closed up XFC, it was like, poof, we're done. They hit me up, my mate that runs Ultimate Fighter, we need a flyweight.
It sucked you right in.
So I had to help Charlie, who's a great friend of mine, great fighter. Then it was the Nick thing. Then it was you. Yep. And with you, I obviously helped you get in. I was like, mate, you're a smart guy. You don't need a manager. You don't need to be paying anyone. If you need to run anything by me, I'm here to help. But I don't, I'm trying to leave this all behind me. UFC New Zealand came around and it was, fuck, Luke Jameau's great fighter. He deserves to be on. I know I can help him. What kind of prick would I be if I didn't? So help Luke with his career. But going into the Melbourne one, look, I've got to get out of this. I want to get out of this. Ahead of the fight, I told Lolo, who was coaching Luke, mate, I'm off after this, and I didn't want to tell Luke going into the fight because I didn't want to cloud Luke.
Yep.
I was having a lot of challenges at that time. I think with there were some things happening with XFC here, with Matt selling the show and, I was sort of being drawn back into that.
You're still emotionally attached to what you created, and I think that's normal.
And to Matt as a person and caring about him, but it was quite hard on me.
Yeah, so you had to look up. It's the same as when you got rid of the show, right? Something had to give.
Yeah.
So you got to that point.
Yeah, but going down, I knew I was walking away and it was hard. Sitting in Melbourne, though, at the show, in the crowd, I'm cage side watching the show, and you look around and look, I'm not sitting here saying I'm responsible for this. Look what I've created Australian MMA, because I most certainly don't think that. But you see their medical teams headed by a doctor that, you know, I gave a start. I'm seeing like all these people, like even now seeing, you know, and hadn't worked with him, seeing like, you know, Geordie and guys like that. There's so many great people here in different aspects of the sport, not just fighters, and you know that you help pave the way for that to happen. So sitting at that show, it was like, this is cool. I'm just going to be a fan now and sit back. I told Luke after the show, you know, that I'm out. Yeah. I didn't want to tell him before because I didn't want to cloud him going in. Of
course.
And try to be a fan after that. Went to a couple of shows, went to New Zealand to Dan Hooker's fight, went to Adesanya's fight. Then the world's gone fucking crazy. But yeah, it's...
Now you don't need to manage because no fighters are fighting.
No, I certainly don't. But it's, you know, I mean, measures are there now. I see even like on a domestic level, like, and I, you know, like even when you were looking for managers and stuff like this, I guess I'm anxious by nature and I worry and whatnot. But, you know, you see people now, like with Zen, and he's a great guy. You know, he cares about his fighters.
I've learnt my lessons in this game, that's for sure, whether it's weight cutting, mismatches, traveling the world to fight someone from a block down the road, or having managers that care more about the business than they do about their athletes. Like I've been involved in it all, and I've got to say, like, I'm in a really good place right now.
So you have that hindsight which enables you to help the Aaron Blackies or the Stuart Nichols and all the students at your gym.
Man, I've got a fantastic team of athletes, coaches, management, and sponsors, and really, like, you know, it's taken me 10 years, but I'm in a fantastic place as far as the sport goes, the business goes, and the transition into the elderly. You know, but it's definitely a really good place, and I'm fortunate that I have the relationships with people like yourself and Geordie and everyone else, where, you know, if I don't know the answer to something, I can go and get it.
Yeah.
And we can have these conversations where we pass on the knowledge to the future athletes or the current athletes on what they can do to help themselves without having to go and spend big dollars on doing it. So I guess if you were to give advice without management, like not manager advice, but like if you were giving advice to an athlete who wanted to go and find their own fights, which lots of them do, they reach out to promoters themselves, or promoters reach out to them, because some of my guys have had people reach out to them and they've only been training for like a year. So if you were to have advice for any athletes on the regional circuit, what would it be?
Yeah, look, I mean, if we're putting the whole corona thing is like, fuck, we don't know what we're dealing with at the moment. Once upon a time, assuming these people want to, I'd establish where they want to go. If they want to go to the UFC and be that guy, you know, it's used to be a matter of fighting people with winning records and winning. I think now with getting to the UFC, and look, it is the big league. It's where people want to be.
Yeah.
Now they put more of an emphasis upon people that are finishing fights, not so much as to who you're finishing, I believe, through what I see. They want that kid with the 12-0 undefeated record. And
that's had 12 knockouts.
Yeah, because he's going to come in and that'll either be legitimised or passed on to the fella that fucking obliterates him.
Yeah, true.
Whatever situation it might be, the UFC wins there. But with these guys, I mean, you've got to surround yourself with good people. You've got to have honesty. You know, in this situation, you can't work with a promoter that's full of shit, fucking lies, and, you know, and a promoter's not going to work with an athlete or a coach that does that.
So as an athlete, they should work out exactly what they want out of the sport.
Oh, first and foremost, you need to know where you're going before you make any steps.
Build relationships with the right people.
Yep.
Be honest and upfront.
Yep.
And don't overvalue yourself.
Look, I mean, everybody thinks they're better looking than what they are or smarter than what they really are, in my experience. Yeah, but I mean, be realistic in what your ultimate goal is, and you might have to, there's going to be compromise in anything in life. Like they're athletes in a similar situation to what you were in when you started to work with me. I laid down, look, mate, I know you've made $3,000 for a fight or whatever, but that's not going to work.
Yeah.
We can make money together. You can sell tickets. I'm still going to pay you or whatever, and I'll invest in you and bringing the people in. But if this is all money down the drain, and I can't throw money down the drain.
Yeah.
Everybody has to win together. And
so it's fine on a big scale, but on a smaller scale and like regional, national athletes with regional or like national promotions, I think it's important for an athlete to understand the promoter's position as well.
Absolutely.
Because, promoters aren't in that position. And a lot of them, some of them, might make good money, but a lot of them are in that position where, they don't just have money to throw away. They're not UFC.
No, I mean, and I'll look at the sport and you'll see it looking back too, so many people that they see that show, they see the UFC and, I want to be that guy. I'm going to be Dana White and promote fucking fights, or you're going to be Conor McGregor and fight, or I'm going to be Greg Jackson and coach people, or the Joe Rogan or the Stitch Duran. People see that and they want to be that guy in their own backyard. I've had conversation with people from all over the world in the industry, and they'll all this is what they see, whether we're in Australia or wherever, all these people coming on with this influx of people. We see good, bad, smart, stupid, decent people, crooks, a lot of fucking batshit crazy people, guys coming on, putting on shows and blowing like fuck. All of a sudden now their marriage is gone, they've lost their house and they're 250 in the hole.
Big ideas without starting off at the bottom.
No, but, they might have good intents.
Yeah.
You can never confuse that with competence and ability though. And it's the same with fighters. How many guys have you seen wander into your gym with, this is my manager, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, and my son's the next Conor McGregor or whatever the case might be.
Well, I'll make it very clear to every single athlete that walks through, or, when I say athlete, I mean everyone can be an athlete, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But every single person that walks through my door, I'm very clear with it. Let's reassess in 12 months. You're going to train with me, under my coaches for 12 months, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
There's the exception to the rule. Michael Moss came to me with a goal. He wanted to fight for 2 amateur titles. He had an amateur background. He came from good gyms. He's trained with Alex Volkanovski. He already had a background. He was an athlete anyway. He played AFL. So he had the discipline and everything that went with it, which you try to build into a person that walks through the door. And he was undefeated amateur anyway. So, but generally speaking, we say, give me 12 months. In about 10 to 12 months' time, we'll talk about it. We'll see where you're at. We'll work on some things, and we'll get you a fight. And then you've got to determine whether it's C class, B class, where you go from there. But yeah, it's athletes definitely have to have the right people around them, and they definitely
absolutely.
They definitely have to understand the promoter's point of view as well, and position. But we've gone for a while there, and we'll wrap it up because people are probably at work by the time they listen to this. But look, I appreciate you coming on. I know you don't do a lot of podcasts. I appreciate all the work that you've done for the sport in Australia. For me personally, my UFC journey, although it was only 6 fights, but it wouldn't have happened without you. And I know that because I was eating 2 meat pies for lunch while you called me at work in my full-time job. Yeah. So I appreciate everything you've done for me and for the sport, and I appreciate your insight from a promoter's point of view and a manager's point of view today for the people listening. So thanks for coming on, man.
No worries, mate. Thanks and look, good luck with this. Good luck with the gym and everything moving forward with whatever's going to happen in this sport.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks.
Right,
and by the way, guys, Rams Home Loans.
Yeah.
Balabar. Give him a shout out there, but reach out to him. Seriously, got my home loans through them. Awesome people, and definitely worth chatting to them. So thanks for that, man.
Thank you, Damien.